I was reading on Twitter the other day about an internet news personality who was unhappy that another news outlet was not reviewing his latest video material. And he said, well, he wasn't going to pay, they don't pay attention to him, he's not going to pay attention to them in the future. And it was really the second or third thing like that I'd seen from him recently, where he was talking about how he had started all these movements, and then when people catch up to him, they don't give him credit, but that's okay because he's moved on to other earth-shaking things. Okay, whatever. We don't really do that around here. We just do our stories, we throw them into the ether, and we just hope the audience gravitates to them and they find an audience, and we're very grateful that they have. So I'm going to kind of break that rule now just a little bit. So we weren't the first to write about this ridiculous level of black violence in schools. If you read Don't Make the Black Kids Angry, you see how we give full props to the people who were there first. But when we started writing about it, we kind of haven't stopped since. And we've done more about this level of chaos and mayhem and violence in black schools. And I guess we can tie it directly to Obama's, the Obama administration, their executive order about excellence in African American education, where they talk about how white teachers are picking on black students, and for no reason whatsoever. There's all these black people being suspended and expelled unfairly, but white kids do the same thing and they get away with it. What a huge fairy tale that is. And so when we did these stories, it wasn't in the spirit of, we're ripping the lid off this, people, we're only going to get it here. No, it was really more in the spirit of, hey parents, do you know what's happening in your schools? Are you asking your kids, did you know this? Did you know that? Do you know we have teachers that are learning about white privilege in these seminars? And the teachers, and if you don't like what you learn, you'll get fired. And if so they're taking this crazy black on white hostility attitude into the classrooms, and it's just, it couldn't be any crazier, it couldn't be any more ridiculous, and a whole lot of people with a whole lot of credentials making a whole lot of money are looking at us and going, well, you guys don't really understand what's going on, though. You just have to trust us. Yeah, that's the way they roll. So we've been on this for a long time, and I just do notice more and more people are starting to figure it out. I mean, there were places like, the big program here is one called Courageous Conversations, where Dr. Glenn Singleton goes around the country. He and his band of merry men, his Pied Pipers, go around teaching teachers how to teach people that black people are relentless victims of relentless white racism all the time, everywhere. That explains everything. They're teaching this in lots of white school districts with catastrophic results. Anyway, so up in New York this week, I was very interested to see a story from a black Democrat New York State senator and a black union leader telling the truth, finally, after like 10 years of this, telling the truth about what's happening in black schools.
Magnet School in Cambria Heights, Queens certainly looks peaceful enough, but according to State Senator Leroy Comrie, it's one of several schools in his district suffering a crisis in parent confidence.
They're taking their children to other schools, and even if they have to pay for private school.
Comrie blames parent flight on a lack of school discipline.
They don't want to have their children in an environment where they're going to be assaulted and there's no accountability.
He pointed to a new study that shows a dramatic drop of nearly 50% in school suspensions. Suspensions fell from a high of 63,635 during the 2010-2011 school year to 32,331 in 2016-2017, according to a report from John Jay College's Data Collaborative for Justice.
There has to be some type of positive discipline that can happen. They need to be separated from the school population.
Teamsters President Gregory Floyd, who represents school safety officers, agrees.
There's chaos in our schools, and it's going to get worse. The children know they could get away with everything.
Floyd says the softening of discipline began with the de Blasio administration policy started several years ago to issue warning cards instead of criminal summonses.
Parents should be outraged. They should be horrified and outraged.
Schools Chancellor Richard Carranza says the drop in school suspensions is a good thing because educators need to focus on keeping students in the classroom.
What we don't want to do is put students on a school-to-prison pipeline. The minute you put a student into the criminal justice system, you've started them on a path. We're educators. We're about preventing students from having that kind of a track record.
The mission, he says,
is redirecting student behavior, giving students different ways of being able to not only behave, but behave in a social environment.
Well, 2 years ago, the Department of Education updated its discipline code to reduce the length of suspensions. It also spent millions on anti-bullying initiatives and hiring more mental health consultants and social workers.
A newspaper down in Tennessee this week, Tennessee Star, they're grabbing excerpts of this training that mostly white teachers go through to recognize their white privilege, their inherent white bias. So when they go teaching white kids and when they teach black kids, they can use this heightened consciousness not to infect the white students with their white privilege and to recognize how they must give black students special privilege because they've been denied special privilege all this time. Yes, I know it sounds stupid. But these are the people we put in charge of our schools.
And I think I've been ignoring how much privilege I do have. I think that I've enjoyed a lot of privilege that I didn't have to ask for or earn or obtain, and I fortunately, sometimes unfortunately, but fortunately it's come to my attention that I've received things that others haven't. I've had opportunities, things have been made easier for me than they were made for other people, and it is my job to A, notice that, and B, acknowledge that I was a beneficiary of that, and then C, be a part of the solution. So I feel like now more than ever in my life, it's clear to me how much privilege I have had and how much responsibility I do have going forward to take that privilege and share it. I think it's hard.
Okay, that's the fairy tale. Somebody woke up from the fairy tale. We got the state senator and the head of the union waking up from the fairy tale, waking up from the nightmare of denial, deceit, and delusion. I hope it does some good. In the meantime, this is the kind of thing we're seeing every day in chocolate schools. Let's start up in New York City. The same day New York City is bragging about how they're suspending far fewer students, even though the classrooms are getting more and more out of control. Nobody's connecting the dots on that. We have a teacher here who just successfully sued the school district up in New York, and she won a whole bunch of money when she started talking about the horrific racial, sexual, and physical abuse she was receiving. She talked about how in her teaching career, she's had her nose broken with a bag of metal rulers. She's been stabbed with a mechanical pencil. Students routinely demanded sex acts, overturned her classroom, and frequently called her a white bitch. Yeah, this is the hallmark of chocolate students in chocolate schools. And now, and as we documented in Don't Make the Black Kids Angry, but let's go take it to the next level. When she goes down to the principal to say, hey, what have I gotten myself into? These kids are nuts. They're violent. They're throwing things. They won't listen to anybody. They're attacking me. They're attacking other students. They go in and out of the classroom as if they own the school. You've got to help me. The principal looks at her and says to her and many, many other teachers, what do you want me to do? It's your classroom. You are at fault. You can't handle the students. You better learn how to deal with black people in schools. Next.
I had a student take a calculator and beat another student upside the head, broke the calculator. was not suspended.
Math teacher Danita Martin's tales of school terror prompted gasps from this crowd.
Another student got the scissors and started making a stabbing motion. When I went to administration, they said, well, he was already suspended earlier today. What am I supposed to do?
Martin told members of the Shelby County School Board that student behavior at Grandview Heights Middle is at an all-time low.
I'm called by my students gay, lesbian, dyke, sir, and my favorite, white girl.
She cited the ongoing verbal assaults as primary reasons for her pending resignation.
Students tell me, who the F-bomb do you think you're speaking to? And shut the F up talking to me. But they go unpunished.
The aftermath of a major fight at Miami Edison Senior High School. These cell phone videos given to us by family members of students show the moments after the melee as Miami-Dade School's police and administrators try to break it up. Students tell us this is the second fight in as many days at Edison, and their family members say it's starting to get out of hand.
She just called me. She's like, they're fighting. It's like a riot. Everybody's fighting. I'm scared. Come pick me up.
Angie Bernardez says her 17-year-old sister was terrified, and you can see why. Sky 10 overhead shows at least 2 students had to be put into handcuffs.
The kids don't feel safe now in the school now. You know, she said it was like threats, gun threats and stuff. If they were able to tame the kids, you know, it wouldn't never got this big. I wouldn't have, you know, rush home, leave my baby home to come pick my sister up because she's scared for her life.
Dan, according to the Huntsville Police Department, the use of this stun gun on a student by a school resource officer here in the cafeteria of Jemison High School right during lunch, which is when this brawl happened, was deemed to be warranted by police. Now, a parent that I'm talking with tells me that they do not like this level of force being used. Richard Clement is a parent of 2 daughters in Huntsville City schools. Watching a female student being taken to the ground with a stun gun is not easy for him.
Seeing that is extremely hard to watch.
Clement can see the perspective of the school resource officer, though, given there was a brawl going on in the school lunchroom.
Everything is split second, but still you got to use good judgment. You know, these are students still.
In the video, we cannot see what happens in the moments before the stun gun was used, but it looks like the officer is holding the female student from behind when he uses the stun gun on her. Police say one reason for using the stun gun is to help reduce injury if a person is struggling with an officer.
Sometimes those techniques could lead to actually more injury than the incapacitation that's caused by a taser.
Another reason the stun gun was justified is because of how many people were fighting.
Definitely this was a little bit rare, and that could be one of the reasons why the officer chose to use a stun gun, take the fight out of this one individual quickly and make a safe arrest and move on to the next one.
Clement still does not like using this level of force.
I don't agree with that.
Several parents told me they don't have a problem with the stun gun being used, but they did not want to be interviewed. Clement does not want to see this happen again in any Huntsville City school.
There's better ways to deal with it, I think.
Oh, that's pushing and shoving, causing a commotion at a high school basketball semifinal game. Thanks for joining us. I'm Juan Condi.
I'm Constance Jones. It happened in Norfolk at a basketball game, Verona High versus Murray High.
We could do one of these videos every day. Every day.
Please, sir. I want some more.
And it's not just a couple of kids fighting each other and, behind the garages after school. No, it's not any of that. It's how violence, mayhem, and chaos in schools is now baked into the DNA of just about every black school in America. And everybody thinks that's normal. Baltimore, Philly, Chicago, Miami, Washington, D.C., Houston, Dallas, St. Louis, Kansas City. This is a very long list. A long list of black dysfunction, not just in the students, but in the teachers and the administrators who somehow got these crazy ideas and are throwing them at their student body. Nothing's working. Nobody's learning. Test scores are going through the floor. And the only solution they have is to A, get their kids to stop taking tests, or B, get colleges to lower the bar. There's some people at the Department of Education that are trimming back these educational, I don't even want to call them standards. Good for them. Maybe one day they'll pull them out by the roots. don't know if there's an appetite for that, because they know pulling out these ridiculous racial practices that hurt all the students in all these schools, that might improve, that might make the schools better, short term and long term, but it's definitely going to make the black kids angry.